This video demonstrates the cash receipts process for Dynamo. Cash receipts is used to record checks that you've received in the mail or perhaps an ACH payment that was directly deposited to your bank account. After launching Dynamo, you can visit the accounts receivable menu by double-clicking it like that. And we'll be running these 5 programs: cash receipts entry, listing, application, journal, and update. Those 5 programs make up of a batch, and all the payments that are recorded are contained within this batch. You can have multiple batches open at a time and multiple people working on batches at one time. But most of the time you have one batch that is open and it's updated and then closed. Another way to advance to the accounts receivable menu is if you're somewhere else on the menu, touch the tab key, takes you down to the search box, or you can also use the mouse to get there and just type in the 3-letter menu code that's in parentheses after every menu. A/R in this case. It doesn't matter whether it's uppercase or lowercase. And from this point, I can just touch the arrow down key and it'll highlight the matching searched items. So we'll start with cash receipts entry. We're going to start a new batch. And we're going to make this deposit today. In fact, this type of deposit was a mobile deposit. A mobile deposit is the kind where you take a picture of the check with your cell phone. Next, we're going to enter each customer. For the date, you have 2 choices. You can either enter the date the check was printed. That's the most popular option. However, some people choose to enter the date the check was received. Whichever method you choose, do it consistently. This date is used to determine the average payment days for a customer. In other words, are they typically early or late? And if they're late, how many days late are they? So that's why most people choose to use the date that they received the payment as opposed to the date that's printed on the check. The check number can be entered and then the amount. Continue this for each payment in this batch. And when you're done, you just hit F4. The next step in the process is a cash receipts listing and deposit ticket. We won't need a deposit ticket for a mobile deposit, but if you're presenting checks to a bank teller, Dynamo can print a deposit slip for you so you don't have to fill one out by hand. Note that deposit slips typically have to be printed on pre-printed forms because they need to have the magnetic ink located at the bottom with your special bank routing and account numbers. Contact Excelware for more information about how to obtain blank deposit slips. The listing here is totally optional, but sometimes people use it to audit and verify that all of the entries are correct before they proceed with the next step, which is application. It's always easier to fix the corrected amount before you get into application. Some people do an adding machine tape of the checks and then compare that adding machine tape to the total that Dynamo displays. Okay, the total and all the information look correct. So I'm going to exit this listing and go on to the next step, which is application. Application is where you indicate which invoice or invoices are being paid. You start out by selecting the batch, and then you select the customer. You can use the arrow keys to highlight the payment desired and then touch enter to begin the application. So in this case, we received a payment of $462.60, and that turned out to be the total of what they owed because there were some credits and charges that netted out. And so there's no balance to apply, meaning that Dynamo automatically applied the payments to all of these invoices and credit memos, and so you're all done. If, for example, they did not pay any point in the running balance, you may have to manually enter the payment applied. That would be especially true if they didn't pay the entire invoice, or if you needed to accept a cash discount or possibly write off a part of it. Perhaps they didn't pay sales tax, for example, and they were tax exempt, but sales tax was charged on the original invoice. So I'm going to touch F4. This payment's done. Advances to the next one. This APP column stands for applied, so this customer or payment is fully applied. There's no balance left to apply. So we're on the second payment now. We have $100 to apply. I'm going to hit enter. And again, this is another nice one because it automatically applied. They only had one invoice and they paid it. And so it was a fairly simple application process. So we're done with this step. The application is done, and now we can run a cash receipts journal. The journal will list each payment. And how it was applied. There's also a section that displays the general ledger posting that is created automatically by Dynamo. You don't have to print and save these cash receipts journals because you can reprint them at any time from Dynamo. So you don't have to file them away or print them. But typically we do recommend you look them over to make sure that everything was applied the way you intended before updating. This was a fairly simple batch. The general ledger posting is going to be a debit to cash and a credit to accounts receivable, and there's no special other general ledger accounts or distribution required in this case. So finally, we're going to run the cash receipts update. We'll select the batch, and the update's complete. During that update process, we marked those customers' invoices as paid, and so in customer inquiry you would see now that the payment was received and the invoices are no longer open. It also makes the general ledger posting as summarized on the cash receipts journal.